Woodward Sports on YouTube. Tom Mazaway is with us. And so is Tim Twentyman from DetroitLions.com. Tim, how you doing? Thanks so much for the time, my friend.
Thanks, Tim.
Good, Ryan Terry. How you guys doing?
Doing great today.
Timothy?
Doing great today. Hey, Tim, obviously injuries have been such a big storyline with this team. What is the latest with Sam Laporta, who popped up on the injury report, I believe, yesterday?
Yeah, I had a calf strain that kind of flared up on Wednesday at practice. That didn't practice on Thursday, but was back at practice on Friday. I talked to him in the locker room today. He said he's fine. The plan is to play, so they will have Sam Laporta. That's the expectation, at least. So, dodged a little bit of a bullet there. Obviously, he's been so great to begin the season. So they will have his services on Sunday. At least that's the plan on Friday.
All right, a lot of people curious about Brian Branch and Jahmyr Gibbs, too. What can you tell us about those two guys?
Yeah, as you guys know, anytime guys miss all three practices during the week, I think they are become very questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if the injury report at 4 o'clock those guys are out. We'll have to see what that is, but I think at this point it would probably I'd probably lean toward Branch, Jonah Jackson, James Mitchell, and Jahmyr Gibbs not playing Sunday in Tampa Bay.
Seems like some of these injuries are cropping up during the week. Is Dan Campbell killing them? You got him in pads? What's he doing with these guys?
No, I mean, look, and you've got to prepare yourself during the week. I think, when you're talking about muscle strains, I mean, that can happen. Look, Terry, me and you can strain a calf going up our stairs.
No, we will do that.
So you guys know how it goes, right? But I think it's just when you're talking about some of those soft tissue things, that's just a part of football and running around. Dan was asked about it actually on Friday, and look, they've actually had lighter practices this week than they typically have. So I think it's just kind of just one of those things. They're not in pads, they're not full contact. I think it's football, right? These things happen, and I think they happen across the league, and it's just something they gotta have to deal with.
All right, Tim, it's time for our Jameson Williams Minute with Tim Twentyman. What do you got for us this week?
Well, the interesting thing about this week, guys, is it'll be the first time Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are on the field together. And I think we talked about that a little bit in the offseason about how would JMO's speed on the outside maybe free some things up for St. Brown and Laporta in the middle. And conversely, if Tampa Bay wants to take their safety Antoine Winfield Jr. and focus on Laporta or focus on St. Brown, will that leave a one-on-one matchup on the outside, and they can utilize that speed? So that's one thing I'm interested in looking at this week. Is the first time really Detroit's three top weapons, or what they expected to be their three top weapons going into the season, on the field together for the first time against a really good defense. I think that'll be interesting to see how those three kind of play off each other.
Hey, Tim, on the running back situation, let's we'll call Jahmyr out this week. A guy I really liked, and they picked him up from the Jets early, was Zonovan Knight. And we hear that he's going to be out now for the year. I was hoping when he put that shoulder down and that helmet down last week on that great play, I was hoping, that's a stinger. He'll be a fine. But no, the way they carried him out, I kind of knew it wasn't long for him. Now you got Craig Reynolds. Is there anyone else that we could be looking for to help with David Montgomery and the running back situation?
I think those two guys are going to be the two guys. And David's obviously off to a terrific start.
He is.
I mean, 6 touchdowns in 4 games, back-to-back 100-yard games with a touchdown. He's been, I think, perfect for Ben Johnson's scheme. And look, there's a little bit different. He's finding out running behind Detroit's offensive line than it was for the last 4 years in Chicago. He's terrific. And then, good for Craig Reynolds to get that touchdown last week. I mean, here's a guy who was forced into a start, was it last year? I think the year before, and had 100 yards. A very capable backup. I thought he ran well last week. So between those two guys, I think they're just fine in the run game, and they can, get everything the Lions need to get done in the run game.
Hey, Tim, one of the things that Dan Campbell talked about earlier in the week was this team's maturity. Despite being kind of a young team, they have handled their business every step of the way. Even from back to 1-7 last year, they still came to work, put in the work, got back into a playoff race, and now they're even handling success well this year. I think that was a big question. Okay, you guys did that last year, but how will you handle success this year? Is that coaching? Is that all of those position coaches that have been through the fire, that have been in their shoes before? Why is this team, who hasn't really had any success before, able to seemingly be able to handle it so well right now?
Yeah, I think it was a good point by you. You do have some guys that have been there before on this staff. I think it starts with Dan. Obviously, look, he knows what success is. He had it in New Orleans when he was the assistant, head coach there. But I think you get the players. I think police this a lot too. I mean, guys like Cam Sutton, who's been part of a winning program in Pittsburgh for so many years, now comes and he knows what winning is about. And I think you've got guys littered throughout the roster who, have come here, who have been in other places that have had success. They know what it looks like. And, it starts on the top from Dan. They do have a lot of coaches that were players that were part of winning programs that have won championships. I mean, Randall L. has a Super Bowl ring. I mean, so they know what it looks like and how you get there and what you have to do during the week. To be able to put yourself in a position on Sunday to be a team that's a consistently winning football team. And then you've got a lot of good veteran leadership from Jared Goff to Cam Sutton, guys that have been in winning programs, been to Super Bowls. I just think they're in a good situation in terms of what they have from a leadership standpoint, not only on the coaching staff, but in the locker room as well. And it kind of stems all the way down.
Part of the big success, too, for this team is what they've done defensively, Tim. I mean, we all knew the offense was going to be there. Hell, they scored 40 points without Amon-Ra St. Brown last week. But what they're doing defensively is making all the difference and will make all the difference, will it not, if they're going to do anything this year?
Yeah, I mean, we talked in the offseason, I think when I joined you guys, we all knew the offense was going to be good, right? And the discussion was, could they take a 32nd ranked defense and could they just be marginally better? Could they be somewhere in the teens or low 20s? And if that was the case, they were going to be such a better football team. And they have certainly exceeded those expectations. And I think it really starts with the run game. They're allowing 68.4 yards per game on average on the run. No team is rushed for 100 against them, and when you can stop the run and you can make teams one-dimensional, especially when you play some of the young quarterbacks that Detroit has here early in the season, that's obviously to their benefit. And when I watch this defense, one thing that I see is a defense that trusts each other. Guys, I think that they're just doing their job. And they're trusting the guy next to them to do their job so that they don't have to maybe do more than they're asked to. They don't have to get out of their gap to make up for something else, especially up front. I think it's a defensive line and a defensive unit that's playing with a ton of trust right now. When you do that and everybody does their job, you start to get the results that we're seeing.
I tell you one thing that's really helped the Lions. They no longer have a one-man pass rush, and I'm talking about Aiden Hutchinson. Other guys are stepping up, and even if they don't get the quarterback, they're putting heat on him, and then Aiden will probably chase him down and knock him down and stuff right now. What's been the difference with the interior defensive tackle positions now than what we saw earlier in the season? I think that's been the key there.
Yeah, good observation, Terry. I think of Lee McNeil, it starts there. I mean, you saw the transformation he did with his body this offseason. Lost 20-some% body fat, lost, 20-some pounds, but didn't lose any strength. And I just think you see a quicker, more agile, more versatile Lee McNeil on the inside. And then, I give Aaron Glenn a lot of credit too for moving guys around. We've seen Aiden Hutchinson with some stunts and even line up inside and move him around. He's so good and he's so versatile that he doesn't just have to be over the right tackle all the time. Let's change some things up and move him inside and try to find matchups and stand him up. Being a little bit more versatile with them. And then you've got guys like John Kaminsky, guys who are kind of glue pieces to this roster. They don't get a lot of the headlines, they don't get a lot of the sacks, but they do a lot of the dirty work in terms of the stunts and the games that they play up front to free other guys up like Aiden Hutchinson. So I just think it's a collective effort, and any quarterback will tell you the worst pressure they can feel is pressure up the middle. And when you've got guys like Aleem McNeil, John Kaminsky, even Bugs and Benito Jones have sacks on the season, so they've been getting after it a little bit too. I just think they've got a number number of guys on the inside that can rush, and then they're also being versatile with their edge guys, putting them inside to throw something new at offensive lines too. So it's just been a really creative scheme up front for Aaron Glenn, and credit to him. And they've been getting it both from the interior and the edge, and when you do that, you're going to make life really difficult for quarterbacks in the NFL.
Hey, Tim, last one. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Tampa. We had Greg Ermanni on yesterday from Tampa, from Fox at Tampa, covers the Buccaneers in the South. And he said Mike Evans was back at practice, and he's been dealing with the hamstring as well. What do you expect at it? What should the Lion fans look for with this Tampa Bay team coming with the Lions against that Lion defense?
Yeah, I think Todd Bowles said today that he's full go. So the expectation, at least here in Detroit in the locker room today, was that they were going to see Mike Evans. And, you know, when you talk about Tampa, I don't think you can just talk about Mike Evans. And obviously he's an all-pro talent. I mean, he's had 1,000-yard season in all 9 of his NFL seasons. So he's a terrific player. But, you know, when you put him with Chris Godwin, I think that's what makes that offense, you know, really unique. You've got 2 guys that were 1,000-yard receivers last year. There was only 5 duos in the league that did that, and then this year each of those 20-plus catches has 250-plus yards. There's only 7 duos in the league with that. So, you know, what makes it so difficult is you can't just focus all of your attention on Mike Evans. You can't just double him because, you know, Chris Godwin on the other side is really good as well. And so that to me is one of the key matchups, you know, Sunday is can Cam Sutton and Jerry Jacobs hold up against those 2 really good receivers. Obviously it's going to take, like Terry talked about, you know, the defensive line to get some pressure and get that ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands before he can, you know, utilize those threats on the outside. But that's an important matchup. And look, I talked to Jerry this week. He was looking forward to the matchup. I'm sure Cam is too. You know, it's kind of, you know, their best on Detroit's, you know, question mark, I think some have put with their secondary. But look, Cam's been a steady force. Jerry's got, you know, 2 straight games with an interception. He's played well for the last couple of weeks. And so I think those 2 guys are taking it pretty personal that they want to shut those 2 receivers down. They know that that's one of the key matchups in this weekend's game.
Tim Twentyman, catch him out, DetroitLions.com, senior writer and insider. We really appreciate your time on this Friday, Tim. Hope to do it again soon, my friend. Enjoy Tampa.
All right,
as much as you can, anyway. I know it's a work trip, but hopefully you get a good meal
I'll
out of it.
I'll enjoy the 80 degrees.
All right, hopefully you get a good meal out of it, at least something. Thanks, Tim. We appreciate it, buddy.